What really happened inside Brazil's most notorious prison? Before we step inside the place the world tried to forget, hit subscribe. Because what you're about to hear is the kind of truth most people never get to see. Carandiru Penitentiary stood like a concrete island in the middle of São Paulo, a city known for its crowded streets, roaring traffic, and relentless energy. But inside that massive gray structure, the noise shifted into something different. Echoes, footsteps, voices that had nowhere else to go. For decades, the prison was known by a simple, chilling reputation: the deadliest place in Brazil. The story begins in 1956, when the gates first opened, and the facility was considered one of the most modern in Latin America. But by the 1980s and early 1990s, the place had changed so drastically that even officers called it a city within a city. The inmate population grew far beyond its intended capacity. Dormitories built for a few dozen men held hundreds. Some slept on concrete. Some slept sitting up. Some slept standing. And in the middle of all this was a man whose name would later be known across Brazil, Drauzio Varela, but not as a criminal. He was a physician, a volunteer, a calm presence in a place that had none. His memoir, Estaqueo Carandiru, would once tell the world about the people living inside those concrete walls. But before that book existed, he walked into the prison for the first time in 1989 and quickly realized that what the outside world imagined was only a fraction of the truth. But this chapter isn't just about a doctor. It's about the underground world forming beneath the surface, one shaped by overcrowding, tension, and countless stories that collided inside a space far too small. Brazilian authorities knew the prison was overflowing, yet every week more people arrived. Some were hardened criminals, but many were young men awaiting trial, legally presumed innocent, but trapped in the same overcrowded conditions. The imbalance created pressure, a kind of pressure that could burst at any moment. Investigators, prison officials, and even journalists reported the same thing. Carandiru isn't just a prison. It's an ecosystem. And ecosystems develop power structures. Inside, different groups formed rules of their own. Most prisoners simply wanted to survive. Others took on leadership roles, maintaining order in their own ways. Officers patrolled the cell blocks, but even their presence couldn't fully control the environment. It was too big, too crowded, too unpredictable. The tension grew year after year. In early 1992, officials received reports that something was changing, that conversations in certain cell blocks sounded different, that minor disagreements were turning into heated arguments, that the mood inside the prison had shifted from frustration to something deeper, a sense of instability. Yet the outside world didn't notice. To the public, Carandiru was just another prison. To the people inside, it felt like a ticking clock. Then came October 2nd, 1992, a date that would define Carandiru forever. It started with a dispute, as many prison incidents do. Different accounts describe different moments, but what's clear is this: a disagreement between inmates escalated into a fight that spread faster than anyone expected. Officers attempted to contain the situation, but with thousands of men inside, confusion turned into panic. Commanders outside the prison became aware that the situation was more serious than they had realized. While radios crackled and officers rushed into position, something else was happening inside the cells. The men who had spent years under harsh conditions, men who had learned to read every sound, every footstep, now felt the atmosphere shift. They didn't know what would happen next, but they knew something was coming. At 1:30 p.m., reinforcements were called. The tension grew. No one could predict what the next hour would bring. Then, as the sun rose high over São Paulo, the prison's main gate closed behind the last officer entering the courtyard. The world outside continued as usual. Buses drove past, people shopped, students walked home from school. But behind the gray walls of Carandiru, the air felt different. And then came the moment that changed everything. Authorities ordered the tactical operation to begin. The sound of boots, commands, and shields moving in unison echoed through the corridors. Inmates scrambled for safety. Officers proceeded with caution. Every step taken inside the prison added another layer to a situation spiraling far more quickly than anyone expected. By the time the operation ended, Carandiru would be changed forever, and so would Brazil. Yet at this very moment in our story, at the end of Chapter 1, investigators standing outside the prison gate had no idea what they were about to uncover. They moved toward a locked corridor that had gone silent, not knowing what waited on the other side. And when they finally opened that door, what they found would shock the entire nation. The ledger in the dark. Detectives arrived at Ethan Cole's apartment just after sunrise, expecting a quiet, spotless space, typical for a man whose entire life revolved around numbers and routine. But the moment they stepped inside, they realized this case wasn't going to be simple. The place wasn't ransacked, but it felt wrong. Every curtain was shut tightly, every lamp unplugged, and in the center of the living room sat a single briefcase, locked, with Ethan's initials pressed into the leather. They found no sign of Anna. When the officers opened Ethan's laptop, they discovered he had recently downloaded large batches of financial documents from the private firm where Anna had worked before she vanished. Not just her files, hundreds of them. Old invoices, audit folders, and international transfer logs. Anna had been reviewing these same files in the weeks before she disappeared, trying to uncover irregularities she believed someone inside the company had buried. And now Ethan had them, too. Detective Rourke wondered aloud. Was he helping her or stopping her? The mystery deepened when, behind the bookshelf, they found a hidden drawer. Inside was a ledger, a physical handwritten book, surprisingly old-fashioned for a modern accountant. Its pages detailed payouts and coded initials dating back nearly 5 years. One entry stood out. AR flagged discrepancies. Monitor. A second, more recent one read, AR meeting scheduled. High risk. The dates matched the final week before Anna disappeared. Ethan seemed less like a man running away and more like a man caught between something much bigger than himself. As officers photographed the ledger, Detective Rourke noticed fresh footprints near the fire escape. Someone had been there recently, within hours. Someone who wasn't Ethan. Someone watching. The message she left behind. 2 days after discovering Ethan's ledger, investigators received a call that would change the entire direction of the case. A hiker, walking a quiet trail outside the city, had found a backpack wedged between 2 rocks, weathered but intact. Inside was Anna Ruiz's work ID, her notebook, and a small audio recorder. The recorder held a single file. Detectives gathered in the briefing room as the audio crackled to life. Anna's voice, steady, calm, determined, filled the speakers. If you're hearing this, something has gone wrong. I've uncovered financial transfers that don't make sense. Millions moved through shell accounts tied to contractors our firm never hired. Someone inside knows I found it. I don't know who to trust. If anything happens, start with the ledger Ethan found. He's not involved, he's helping me. Tell him I'm sorry. The room fell silent. Anna had left the message the night before she disappeared. The revelation changed everything. Ethan Cole, long viewed as the primary suspect, had actually been trying to protect her. The ledger wasn't a tool of guilt. It was a record of their investigation. And the coded initials inside didn't point to Ethan at all, but to several senior executives at Anna's former firm. A series of search warrants went out within hours. The executives denied everything at first, but the documents retrieved from their offices told the truth. Unauthorized contracts, foreign accounts, and transactions matching the amounts Anna had flagged. It was the financial misconduct she feared, laid out in full. One executive eventually stepped forward with a confession. Anna had confronted them privately, and in panic they threatened her, demanding she drop the matter. She fled the building that night, and no one saw her again. Search teams continued to look for her for months, across parks, cities, and rural land. Although the exact circumstances of her disappearance remain unsolved, the evidence she collected led to a sweeping financial fraud case that brought down the entire internal network she had uncovered. Ethan Cole was cleared of wrongdoing. He still keeps the ledger, its pages untouched, its ink a reminder of the investigation he and Anna started together, one she never got to finish. And every year, on the date she vanished, he leaves a single white flower at the trail where her backpack was found. A quiet promise that her voice and her truth won't be forgotten.